we caught up with football writer and United We Stand creator Andy Mitten to talk about his new book on 70s United, simply called United, United.
My name's Andy Mitten and I'm a writer. My latest book is called United, United. It's about Manchester United in the 70s. I spent a day with 11 players plus the manager Tommy Docherty from the 1970s, and I did big in-depth interviews with them, just as I'd done for the book on United in the 80s and the 90s, and I got them to tell me what I thought were the most interesting stories about their lives, not just their time at Manchester United, although that's the focus, but their lives, their childhood, what they've gone on to do since they stopped playing football, that type of thing. And met some really interesting people, like Martin Buchan, who was the captain, very intelligent man. I went to Dallas, Texas to stay with Gordon Hill and his wife Claire. I saw everybody face to face. I think that's important when you're interviewing. Tommy Docherty was another one I did, Jerry Daly, who took some tracking down. Jimmy Greenough, who was probably the most reluctant interviewee, but by the end of it, he was one of the best. Really enjoyed speaking to Jimmy. Sammy McIlroy, he was a big star and played more games in the 70s than anybody else. Lou Macari, Paddy Roach. So all the important names of that decade, and it's really enjoyable to meet them and to write up their stories.
Do you find when you're talking to these guys that you're able to get, because it's been a while since they've played, are you able to get those little hidden gems, the stories that no one else will have heard of outside of the group of players?
I think it's my job as a journalist to get those stories, and I have got those stories in my past books. I think it's a combination of the players trusting you and knowing that I've written for a long time and about Manchester United, and I'm not just going to disappear into the sunset. I've got to see these people again. However, I've still got to do my job properly and be objective and get the stories, and it's not a PR exercise for those players. I've got to portray their life fairly and accurately to the reader. My priority is to the reader, to the people who buy the books. But I'm not stitching the players up either, and I'm sure that they tell me some stories. Well, I know for a fact, the likes of McIlroy and Nicol told me about growing up in Belfast when times were very heavy with the Troubles in Belfast. And they've never spoke about that before. And I didn't know, for example, that Manchester United had paid for both of those players for their parents to move over to Manchester so that they were more safe in Manchester. So he had a safe house in Manchester rather than in Northern Ireland.
So you've done the 80s United, you've done the 70s United now. So what is it to come?
I've done a contract to do a 60s United book, so I'm going to start on that in the new year, and I've not confirmed anybody yet, so I can't really say any names, but I've got a good idea of who I'd like to speak to. And well, I'll say one, Paddy Crone, because I know he'll do it, and I know a couple of the others very well, and just carry on in that format, because the format works and the books sell and we get good feedback to them. And then I've got a couple of other books lined up, two which I'm not putting my name to, because one of them is a footballer who's doing it anonymously. So I'm just going to write that, and I was just so aware that one's working. But I do put my name to pretty much everything.
Out of all of the players that you met, who would you say, did you have and the manager, who was your favourite interview out of all of them?
Of the 70s, I tell you, there wasn't one I didn't enjoy, because I did my own work, and if there was someone who had a bad reputation, I wouldn't go near him. From the past books, the one who surprised me most was Andy Cole, and I ended up striking up a good relationship with him and working with him all the time. From the 70s one, Sammy McIlroy was fantastic. Jimmy Nicol was really funny. Tommy Docherty is still going strong in his 80s.
What do you think of the doc? Because every time I see him quoted saying anything, he always sounds like he's putting his foot in it,
Well, the doc divides people. A lot of people don't like him, and he knows that. But a lot of people do like him. He's a Marmite character, and you can see that to this day from my own experience with him. He was good enough to give me an interview, to invite me to his house, not to shirk any difficult questions either, which I had to put to him, such as about his court trials in the 1970s. But there are people who people don't just dislike or like him; they strongly dislike him, or they really like him. I know. And then there's other people who don't like him, former players, and yet still call him boss. So they're almost reverential, call him gaffer and boss, and he's one of life's characters.
So that's all for this week. See you in a fortnight for more news and views about the world's greatest football team here at United Fans TV.